So we're with Nick Leggett, Chief Executive of the Road Transport Forum. Thanks for joining us, Nick.
Thanks, Nigel.
So yeah, it's a pretty momentous time at the moment for the transport industry. I was just wondering if you could tell me, as we head into the level 4 lockdown, what are some of the major questions and concerns you're getting from transport companies at the moment?
Well, I mean, there have been a number, and like the situation that I think the country and the world finds itself in, it's a moving feast at this stage, and that's certainly, I think, what transport operators are discovering as well. You know, things are changing from one moment to the next. And what I would say is that it's a very resilient industry, and it's an industry that's used to picking up the slack at a moment's notice and responding to customer need. So actually the transport industry, by the very nature of what it does and the kinds of people that run it, is actually really well placed to assist the country during this time. And I think, you know, it is very resilient. In terms of some of those issues that we're seeing, I mean, the first and the most dominant one has to be, you know, what is an essential industry or an essential service or an essential occupation at this time. And while the government has released a list on that, and it's really anything to do with food movement, processing, packaging, animal welfare, people welfare, medical supplies, those kinds of things, and all other essential services, what we're finding is that there's still some change there. And we talked to the Ministry of Transport again today. We're expecting a more refined list, or a more detailed list probably actually, to be released at some point in the next few hours or tomorrow, and that will tell us, hopefully give us some more clarity, because it's you know, things are emerging, but you know, we know that both ourselves and the associations, New Zealand Trucking, National Road Carriers and Road Transport Association, we've all fielding calls about an essential industry. And you know, there's a general rule of thumb there that if you're hauling food, or you are involved in particular parts of livestock and other sort of aspects of food, then yes, you probably are. But we really are trying to get some more information out of government, you know, to help guide people about the decision they make for their business.
Of questions you're seeking more clarity on at the moment?
Excuse me, I'm just looking at my list on my whiteboard which I brought from the office. I mean, we had the issue today of whether VTNZ and VINs would be open for COFs. That thankfully has been settled. So for essential vehicles, essential service vehicles, yes, they will be. And we're awaiting some more clarification around any new gear to the road, whether or not that can get those sort of entry certifications that's often required. You know, that's vehicles for essential services. Once again, we're waiting on some clarification there. We're worried also about potential choke points in the supply chain at ports. That's something that we're talking to officials about. Because if containers are not uplifted, then there is that potential. Additionally, we've also faced some concern around public toilets for drivers. You know, if you're driving line haul and the public toilet you usually stop at Tie Happy's closed, what do you do? And so we will be talking to the government sort of formally about that, and you know, recognising that local government has made some decisions, but actually central government, at a time of a national civil emergency, they are able to step in and actually override some decisions. Not that we're wanting them to do that, but what we need to do is understand where the potential issues are there for drivers. And so that's what I would say. I mean, for people watching, for operators and drivers and people in the industry watching, you know, let us know what, you know, issues you're feeling and seeing out there. What we are saying at the RTF is, you know, think about that distancing at all times, irrespective of whether you're on the job or not. Think about keeping yourself safe, keeping your cab hygienic, and clean. There's information about all this on the RTF website, and we're updating that regularly for people, and we can respond with new information if we know what the particular issues are. So go through your associations for that, and they'll all come to us, and they'll pass it on if you don't.
Cool. And how are you finding how is the road transport industry responding to this crisis? Are they proving resilient?
I think so. It's interesting. Both National Road Carriers and the Road Transport Association have started up some opportunities for drivers and for operators of those who are have got some excess capacity, maybe with vehicles, with trucks, or staff, or people who need staff. And I know that they've already placed some people into work. So worthwhile, going to both those places and seeing that, and I think that's a real sign of resilience. People just step up and do what's required at a time like this. And, with so many of us, as you can see, I'm at home with children in the background. So many of us are holed up like this. Most people are in this situation. It's going to be the road freight transport industry and the people that, are in the industry that are going to be carrying the load for us. And that requires resilience and toughness. And, the attitudes we're getting from out there and everything I'm hearing from the associations is, people are up for this challenge. They're a bit uncertain as to whether they're part of the response, and we are working pretty much full-time on trying to understand that so people can make those sort of decisions for their businesses.
And are you seeing drivers getting redeployed who might have been laid off, for example, in the logging industry?
Yeah, we are seeing evidence of that, and as I say, both NRC and RTA are offering an opportunity for drivers to sort of, or companies to let them know if they need some staff or they've got some excess that could be redeployed elsewhere, and that's an industry that's supporting each other. Evidence of that happening around the place.
And all the essential supply chains to supermarkets and all the rest, are they coping with the demand at the moment?
Yes, they are. And, I think it's really important to emphasise that, we've got enough product in this country. And I think I saw the other day there are five factories that produce toilet paper, so presumably they'll still be going. Like what we're looking at, and we've heard from local government actually through the Food and Grocery Council that, those often there are consenting times that control the delivery of goods to supermarkets, and what we're hearing is that their local government is prepared to relax that. So if you've got to rock up at a time that's perhaps different than usual, then that's kind of, in these sort of difficult waters, that's kind of acceptable. We are concerned, I have to say, that drivers will be safe and secure. So we want operators and drivers to think about when they're dropping off, if they're carrying food or produce or medical supplies, even to think about their safety. And we want to know from the start if there are any issues around that, because the police have had to get involved in some states in Australia. We've been talking to the Australian Trucking Association about that. So that security for drivers and for loads is going to be really important. Now, look, it may never happen, but we've got to be aware of that.
Yeah. And so overall, how is the Road Transport Forum responding to the calls from transport companies, and how will you be helping them?
Well, I hope we've been a help already. We're all working remotely from home, so that's and it's worked pretty well so far. But we're in constant contact with officials, and from a number of departments. But to get the right information to them and to ensure that we're talking about the right issues, we need the contact coming in, by email, through the associations, to actually put the issues in front of you on the table. Because what we want to do is, in many cases, the associations will have an answer for you straight away. They'll often elevate stuff up if it's new and different, or there's some qualification around the particular set of circumstances the country finds itself in. Have things changed? I mean, it's it's worth saying that at 12:21 today, we went into a national civil emergency. Things change. It is not business as usual. And I've seen some people say, we're just going to merrily carry on. That is not the case. We have to take this seriously. We have to abide by the rules. And that, even if you are operating in this time, you need to be practicing the guidelines that you'll find on the COVID website, the government website. And you should be extra especially vigilant on things like hygiene around your premises, around the cab, and thinking about the mental health and the anxiety of your drivers. So, drivers spend a lot of time alone. That kind of goes with the job. They're now going to be more alone on the roads and when they stop, because there are going to be fewer people around. They're also going to be, potentially going back into home environments where there's more stress and more anxiety. It's uncertain. We're all uncertain. We're all thinking, what are we going to be like in a week? And, if the world has stopped and you're still working, you're going to be in a different frame of mind. So I think it's incumbent on all of us to check on our colleagues, to check on our employees, as well as family and friends, because we are in uncharted waters. So, I know people will look out for each other, but let's be extra especially vigilant there, because I've noticed the fraying of sort of tempers and the frustration and people around me. Of course, I haven't been guilty of it at all, it's really good that people do look out for each other.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking with us today, Nick, and stay safe, and please keep us updated as we move through these challenging times.
I will. Thank you, and thanks for the initiative as well. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you. You too.
Cheers.
Catch you.
Thanks, Nigel.